Before January 1956, the daily lives of the Hitchings family would have struggled to have been considered remarkable. That year would mark the beginning of one of the most perplexing paranormal cases in London's history. It would seemingly begin with the discovery of a mysterious key. The father of the family, Wally Hitchings, would try the key in every lock in their terraced house on Wycliffe Road. The key didn't fit any of the doors or cabinets, but, unbeknownst to the Hitchings family, it may have been what unlocked the flood of supernatural events that would plague their home for years to come. The ghostly activity that would follow centered around their 15-year-old daughter, Shirley. A mischievous spirit would come to reside within the Hitchings family home and, as some paranormal researchers have concluded, use Shirley as a conduit to communicate with the living. This case file, join the theorists as they find a new way to ouija in the Battersea Poltergeist.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing! Case file 272, the Battersea Poltergeist. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
This is stamping it right now. The world's most poltergeist.
The world's most poltergeisty poltergeist.
Yeah.
It's high on the geistometer.
Geistiest?
The geistiest poltergeist.
Poltergeist, I suppose.
It's very geisty.
Dan, do you have your geistometer calibrated?
Yeah.
Yeah, I zeroed it out this morning.
Oh, perfect.
How? How'd you zero it? To what?
Well, there are no poltergeists currently in my house, so
So you said to zero.
so it's at 0.
Okay. That checks out.
Just a thought I was having before we start this one, because I think it's relevant. I was listening to this and doing some reading and stuff. When I was thinking about poltergeist, you kind of get the trend of like how a poltergeist starts. It's like small stuff, right? It always seems to be small stuff, and then that progresses to more. Shit gets more and more crazy, like as the time goes on living with this poltergeist. And it kind of made me think that I wonder if everyone kind of has run-ins with poltergeist, but because you don't give it like maybe these things feed on attention, like they're attention whores, right? Because I was thinking like, when you
So
know,
you're
like
a poltergeist? Is that what you're saying?
you got your keys, whatever. This is an example. You got your keys, you put them down, and then you're like, where the fuck are my keys? You're like, I know, put them somewhere. Then you walk around the house, you're like, look everywhere, and you're like, there's no keys. And then all of a sudden they're on your kitchen counter. You're like, I fucking looked there. You're like, what? That's weird. And you grab them and you pay no more attention, right? Part of me wonders if those kind of events could be chalked up to poltergeist activity. But the difference is that you're not dwelling on that. Like the more you were, like if you were to really be
You're missing something though. You're missing a key factor. It can't be a poltergeist unless you're an adolescent girl.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the one fucking key contributing factor to initiating a poltergeist.
No, I'm on Braden's side of this. I think everyone probably has a poltergeist attached to them. Kind of like, people call them guardian angels. They're not. They're just poltergeists. Most of them are friendly. You never pay them any mind because they don't really do much. They just kind of subtly fuck with you all the time.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
As you pay the mind and you're like so say if like I put my keys on my counter, found them, and then I was like, I know I didn't put my keys there. And you're just like really bothered by this, and you give more like, how did they get there? And like the more like energy and stuff you put in, the more you feed this thing to then you get the ghost footsteps, like, right?
I don't know, though. That can, buddy, that'll derail my day.
I've watched.
If I can't find my keys,
I know how this works.
If I can't find my keys, I'll flip a fucking table. I'm not angry.
I had a
You're the
poltergeist.
poltergeist.
Maybe. Oh.
I had a poltergeist steal an entire lanyard of keys just last week, and it's gone forever. I don't know where they went. They're on a big red lanyard. Can't lose them. They're gone though.
Buddies, no one has stronger poltergeist than you, Zell. A poltergeist stole your fucking Toyota Tacoma.
Right out of the driveway. Vanished. True. I just got a 4-year reminder the other day.
Gone.
It's been 4 years. Never found again.
That was a good post.
R.I.P. Blue.
I did
R.I.P.
Sent it to the group chat.
That hurt to read that again. 4 years
That popped
later.
up in my memories.
Yep, 4 years. I think it's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Shame.
He posted the missing truck ad.
Hey, remember when this happened?
Poltergeist.
That's Facebook. Thanks.
Yeah, that's you should rephrase that post. Repost like, hey, like it's the fucking Mountain Ave poltergeist. So much shit goes missing. No one's had more shit stolen than Zell has had stuff stolen in his life.
I've had iPads. I've had a full suspension mountain bike, a truck.
Hey, that has nothing to do with his carefree attitude and never locking doors and leaving keys in trucks.
Well, and the fact that he's got all the fancy shit. Nobody's stealing my stuff because it sucks.
That's true. Not one person has broken into meth laboratories.
My guitar got stolen.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost a
One
lot.
time they broke into my car because they thought there was an iPhone in my car, but it was just like an old broken screen that I had replaced. And they didn't take anything. They just left it. If anything, I think they
wide
left
open.
some stuff.
They left you a
a
note
tip.
that said, hey, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah. No, that's not true, actually. I was in paramedic school. They took all my school books and shit like that and just walked around Glenmore ripping them in pieces and throwing them around. It was awesome. It was really cool.
But we're talking today about, honestly, I'm a little surprised I've never heard about this one before we got into it. Because, like, as far as poltergeist cases go, poltergeist, I mean, poltergeist. That's how I like it. If there's more than one, it's poltergeist. Or poltergooses. I don't know which one. But either way, like, I was surprised because I'm like, man, this is such a fucking big case and spans over such a long duration of time.
Fucking 12 years.
Right? And I think we've talked about other ones that kind of tag into this, like the Enfield poltergeist. I'm pretty sure we talked about that.
Yep.
And this is like a precursor really to that one. So it was kind of weird that it took us this long to get on the Battersea poltergeist.
Yeah, this case is interesting because it's one of those ones like we did the Watseka Wonder that one time, and we talked about how a lot of the poltergeist paranormal cases that are the most interesting are the ones that usually have like a singular person who kind of accounts for it, somebody who kind of documents it and interacts with the phenomenon like on a fairly regular basis. And that's what you get with this case, is that you don't get a lot of separate accounts. You get like maybe one or two, but they're very detailed and they're very like, it's a person that is very consistent basis tracking everything that's going on. There's good documentation. There's journals. There's a lot of physical documentation, letters and correspondence and stuff like that. Our newspaper articles, all this stuff that kind of adds up to this wonderfully weird tale of this poltergeist. And it starts out weird enough that you're kind of like, okay, yeah, this might be the beginning of something that is truly weird. So in late January of 1956, there was a key that was found by one Shirley Hitchings. And, to describe it, it was approximately 2 inches long and silver in color. And it looked like it would be designed for a small lock that you might find on a desk or something. And so Shirley brought it home to her house on Wycliffe, number 63 Wycliffe Road.
I thought she woke up and it was on her pillow.
Not yet.
Oh,
she found it first.
That was fucking...
She found it first, and then when she brought it home, showed it to her father and stuff. Her father thought maybe it was a key that's something to around the house, and maybe it did. He walked around the entire house, they said, and he kind of like tried the key in each of the locks around the house, and none of them, the key didn't fit in any of them.
So she found this fucking key from outside, like somewhere outside, then brings it home, and then Dad starts hoping that it opens a lock in their house.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna try He's like, maybe it's a skeleton key.
I thought it was just on the
there you
table
go.
or something the first time.
I thought it was in the house, but
I thought it was in the house too. They're like, from the
which would make
accounts that I
sense to
read is that she found it in the house and was like, hey, this is peculiar. What's this key? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And that's a weird thought. That's a weird thought because I'm like, what if that's how a poltergeist like gets in your home? Is like, think about your house right now. I can guarantee you, all three of you and everyone listening, if you open a drawer, there's a key in a drawer and you go, I don't know what the fuck this key's for.
yeah, torch it.
Guarantee. Just throw it out.
Yeah.
Don't try it.
taking
Don't
my
pay that
chances.
key any mind. Toss it out. That's a poltergeist. Get it out.
So by Shirley Hitchings' father, his name is Wally. By his account, he had left the key after he had tried it in every lock, key, lock and door, cupboard, desk, anywhere he could find a lock, and it didn't work. He put it on the kitchen table. But the next day, the key was found on top of Shirley's bed.
Oh,
And like Shirley,
Nobody knows how it got there.
Shirley brought it. Was like, hey, did you put the key here? And
what's
he's
this
like,
key doing here?
he's like, where'd you find that? She's like, on my bed. And he's like, did you put it there? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, I didn't put it there. What? You must have. And like the dad kind of was like, thought like she's playing jokes on him.
Braden, that was a beautiful dramatic reenactment there. That was really good.
Fairly accurate.
I like that. That was good. Yeah, it was really good.
Make
I wish
fun
you
of
would
him.
have done an accent.
We're known
but-
for our quality reenactments. Like we can't let people
I'm
think.
so bad at the fucking accent. Oi!
What's the fucking key here, huh?
Oi, Dad! Oi, Pop! What
This
do they
is
say?
Is this North London? This is
South.
London.
This is South London.
South
Yeah.
London.
South
Oi,
London.
Poppy!
Like Cornwall.
Poppy. No, what did they say?
I don't know.
Poppy.
Oi, Pop!
Poppy.
Bah.
Oi,
Papa.
Dad! Oi, Dad! The
there you
keys. Yeah, the keys.
Where
The
are we?
keys on my bed.
Oh.
Like if Andrew can't do Australian, like I can't do Cockney. That's it. That's fair. Oi, Shirley, you must have put it there.
So to kind of give you an idea of the conditions that we're dealing with here in the atmosphere, really the setting for this entire case, you have this number 63 on Wycliffe Road. Was a pretty much like unremarkable street, and you kind of just had a bunch of terraced houses, and most of the district was working class. You had living in the house, you had Walter Hitchings, which was the father, age 47, his 51-year-old wife, Catherine, or Kitty, their 15-year-old daughter, Shirley. And then you had a couple of other occupants as well. You had upstairs, in the upstairs rooms, you had Wally's 73-year-old mother, Ethel. And then you had
former all-pro defensive lineman, Ethel.
Yeah.
I'd like that
Yeah.
there. 6'4", 250.
She's fucking humongous.
She's a unit, man.
Honestly, I was like, there is no fear. Like, there is no fear. Now, I don't know where that 250 sits. I don't know if she holds
Doesn't
it
matter.
well.
But it's a
I like to
6'4" frame.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I
a
said.
6'4" frame.
I like to, like, in my head, I'm like, she holds it well in my head. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, she's a unit.
Absolutely.
Here's this little side story about Ethel. In World War II, when Hitler was bombing the shit out of London, she would go up to the roof and sit on the fucking roof. Like she was going to punch these things out of the way if they were coming for her house. She's a fucking unit.
But she'd be like in her late 60s, early 70s. Let's say World War I.
Yeah.
She would have been a little bit more spry during World War I, I'd imagine,
Yeah.
right?
Either way. You put some, yeah.
So
Like, don't bug Ethel.
Don't fuck with Ethel, man.
Yeah, don't fuck with Ethel.
I can't even believe they're Geist in this house with the Ethel in there. You think they'd pop in and be like, nah, we're good.
by all accounts, yeah, the family dynamic seemed to be, at least in the beginning, you had Ethel, who is like the head matriarch, like pretty much like whatever she said, she ruled over that
no
home.
shit.
Yeah, because she's fucking ruled over looking down on everything, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
She's like,
fucking no
she'd
problem.
palm your head. What was that?
Just pick you up, move you aside.
And then one of the other regular characters would be Mark, which is a pseudonym that is used for another male relative in his 20s. Little information is really given about him because he later kind of just didn't want any part of this. Understandably, like the stuff that we're going to get into is kind of like, yeah, you would probably never want anybody to know any of this stuff that happened. So soon after the experimenting with the key and trying to opening things, noises began to be noticed by the Hitchings. They started in the downstairs bedroom about 10:30 p.m. on Friday, the 27th of January. This would be 1956.
And yeah, the sounds like, I mean, anyone who's lived in an old house would know, like my house does it too sometimes, where you get these pipe noises where it's like, duk, 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 duk. Like
It's like a loose pipe in a wall. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's something, and it just rattles a little bit, and you're like, ooh, what was that? Like, and I think it's a pretty universal sound. Like if you've lived in an older house, or like if you've seen any kind of horror movie, you know what this sound is.
Yeah, so they started hearing these kind of bumping and scratching sounds, and they kind of progressively got louder and more frequent to the point where they were starting to hear them during the day as well, not just at night. So,
and they got so loud at a point where like the fucking neighbors came over and were like, shut the fuck up! We've had it with you and you shit! Quit fucking hammering around! Tell Ethel to quit doing fast feet upstairs! We've had it with her shit! And they're like, well, it's not us.
Buddy,
It's not
Ethel's up in the attic just banging and clanging. She's got a fucking bench. She's getting gains. Like, fucking. But, like, when the sounds apparently were so loud that they, like, were all encompassing in the house. Like, they said they were coming from the walls. Ethel described it as it sounded like something was trapped and trying to get out.
Yeah, in the walls. Like, it's fucked up. And it's like, again, you have neighbors coming over and being like,
Cut that shit out.
Yeah, what are you doing? We're fucking losing it.
So they soon kind of understood that these sounds or something kind of seemed to be focused or surrounding Shirley at some point. There's something with her that when she kind of been around, that these sounds would kind of either follow her around or kind of be in the general area of usually where she was at. It was something like that. Now, Wally worked. He worked as like an underground, like he worked in the subways, like was his job. And one of his coworkers,
He was a ghost conductor.
One of his fellow underground train drivers by the name of Henry Hanks actually sent him a note offering his assistance, because apparently Hanks was a bit of a spiritualist, and his free time, I guess as a hobby, he practiced as a medium.
And maybe, I don't know how you say it, and this is not facts, but this is just and you'll see why later on in the story, but maybe a bit of a, how do they say it in the UK? Pedo?
I'm not sure. That's speculation.
Very speculation.
I didn't hear that.
You'll no, but well, I'm going to allude to that for the reasons why, because some of the shit that Mr. Harry Hanks does later on is questionable.
So Mr. Hanks offered up his services as a part-time medium to go ahead and try to drive out whatever was the malefic entity that was causing these sounds in number 63 on Wycliffe Road.
I love that as a part-time medium, as if there's that alludes to there's not enough work to do it full time, right? So it's like it's
not that there's not enough work. I suppose it's not enough money.
Well, or here's the other thing.
Fucking live off that shit.
The other thing that I've thought about is because like there's a lot of fucking grifters in that kind of space. And it's like, if this person's like, yeah, I do this, I can take care of it. And then it's like, these people like can go and like, it can't like, they know this, whatever these family experience, old house, whatever, they go and they're like, yeah, I can do this. And then people will go to this and like, holy fuck, it's real. It's real. They have no experience doing it at all. And to me, like when you label yourself as, well, I do this on the side of my desk. I'm a part-time medium.
To just give it a bit of context, like spiritualism was still fairly popular around this time. Like, there had been the big revival after World War I. People kind of got into it, and we experienced this entire revival in the, most of the Western world. These ideas of communicating with the dead, could be attributed to some people, as a coping mechanism of trying to adjust to the loss, like the massive losses experienced by families, after World War I and World War II. And so, Hanks, described himself as being somewhat of a competent medium. I'm not sure by what standards, but he. So what he did is he, told Wally that I can come and I can help you out. So Wally invited Hanks to come visit number 63 on Sunday, the 5th of February of that year. And so when he arrived, he brought with him his wife and his daughter, and they all kind of held a little seance, accompanied by Shirley in order to try and communicate with this and spirit or entity that seemed to be focused on her.
For real, I just want to say this again. Yeah, got something to say?
Yeah, sorry. The wine's hitting you.
Am I interrupting?
No, it's just for real. Guys, for real. For real, I just have to say this. For real, guys. No, I'm for serious here. Like you're white girl wasted already.
This is
white wine wasted.
Like, are you guys listening?
This is so serious.
Are you serious?
We should have a seance. That's what I was going to say.
We should have a seance. I agree.
Right? The next time we have a pod week, we should hire someone, a part-time medium, to come and do a seance with us.
Why are they called mediums? Why are they called mediums? Is it because it's like in between?
You're between
like you
dimensions.
Got small and you got large, and then mediums in between?
No, you're between dimensions. You got
in the middle of them.
You got the supernatural plane and reality, and then you got in between, and that's where the mediums operate.
So whether or not they'll let us do it
mediums
live,
in between, because it's in between small and large.
There you go.
Yeah, whether they do
Is that what it is?
Whether they allow us to do it live or we do it and then do our experience, I would love to do one. I'm just saying. I think it would
I'll tell her we have nothing recording, but I'll have hidden cameras and microphones, no problem.
My worry is if it's, like the Hasbro boards, where you can't record anything or else it won't work.
I don't know. I don't want to do it.
It works.
Anyways.
We will summon my mom and she'll do nothing but castigate me the entire time.
So Hank comes, the part-time medium, and he's running one.
He runs a seance. And so after the seance, there's a small, short period probably until after he left that the tapping started again. 10 days later, Hank returned to kind of give it another shot. And so as the Hitchings family waited, trying to kind of... The Hitchings family, to kind of describe them, is like they were very devout religious people. They were English. They were church, like devout members of the Church of England. Their grandma was also like old school, like they
Irish Catholic.
Yeah. So they really didn't. They felt like
she loved the Lord by you. She loved him. They really felt like they were more kind of logical people. They weren't really into the ghosts.
Bicep.
She's like the fucking Boondock Saints.
So Kitty and Wally were kind of really out of sorts and out of place, and felt out of place here in this atmosphere of trying to interact with spirits and all of this thing. This was not Kitty. In their wheelhouse.
Listen, speaking of wheels, Shirley, could you think of a worse position to be in? You're living in a house that's been paranormally activated. You're in the fucking middle of a poltergeist. It is 1956. I don't even think they've invented wheelchair ramps yet. And this lady is fucking wheelchair bound. You're not getting away from shit.
Well, and also
you're not getting away from nothing.
You're at the will to any poltergeist is in the house. They're going to wheel you wherever you want. Do they even have locks on wheelchairs back then?
I don't know,
right?
Man.
Like when
Terrifying.
like wheelchair technology is advanced, but like did they have the locks they could push down themselves, lock them in place?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's poltergeist. They'll pick you up.
Yeah, Kitty did suffer from like severe chronic arthritis. So ouch. she was wheelchair bound for for all of this, I suppose. Like her, and I think Ethel too was also pretty much like low mobility.
Well, yeah, she had some like neurological deficits from a CVA supposedly.
Yeah, she had bad knees.
She's still
from
fucking 6'4", 250.
Fucking 6 straight Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
So when Hanks came back and performed their second seance, he sadly felt like he couldn't contact whatever was there, whatever was surrounding Shirley. He wasn't able to kind of forge a link between them and communicate with it. But he did offer Wally the option of being to bring Shirley to his house in order to get a better sitting.
Sleepover.
Everybody
knows you need a sleepover.
Here we go.
Yeah, you need a sleepover.
And here we go. And this is why I alluded with, I was like, maybe. I don't know. But like the second when you're like, yeah, I don't know what's going on in your house. You know what would help? If your 15-year-old daughter would come sleep over at my house. Are our daughter friends? I don't know. No. Are we just work acquaintances? Yes. Am I a part-time medium? 100%. She should sleep at my house.
Part-time medium, full-time pedo.
Right?
Not good.
Like this whole thing, this whole thing. And it's like, he does such a cop-out where he's like, at the time when he's like, nothing's happening, he's like, let me go ahead and put myself into trance. And he's sitting at their house and he's in like a trance for fucking hours. Right? And he's just sitting there. And he's like, nothing. Can your daughter sleep over at my house? Is that cool?
So it was all a ploy just to get her to sleep over at his house?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've seen these kind of, let's call them actors before, where they come in, they think they talk about knowing what to do and they don't, right? Like this is a this is a movie trope.
This is
right?
this is a Stan Romanchuk.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure how mediums operate, but I'm sure there's probably some connection they draw between having the poltergeist in its place as opposed to pulling it out to somewhere where you can operate as the person, like in your home, that you have the power.
Listen,
as opposed to them being in their location.
Maybe poltergeist research at this time was pretty low. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that we didn't know a lot about the poltergeists in this point in time. But like what we know now is like they're pretty like fucking homeward bound. Like they're like, this is where I fuck around right here.
Well, no, not necessarily. They're attached to the person.
I guess the Enfield one it moved around too. So yeah. Well, who knows? It's still. I would be. I'd be like, I'll come.
Well, Wally did agree, but he was going to go. I think he agreed that he was going to accompany her just to make sure it was safe, because he does. He does go. So by this point, like the sound and the idea that there's some type of entity within the house becomes so kind of just ubiquitous to the Hitchings. They try to lighten the situation. They kind of just try not to take it as seriously for their own sanity, I suppose. And they start to give it like nicknames of what it is, since they don't know. So they started referring to it as a male. They gave it like a male persona and the name of him. And I think two of the ones that they used were at first were Charlie Boy and Spooky Willie.
I fucking love it. That's what we're gonna call the fucking poltergeist at Zell's studio. We're gonna call it Spooky Willie from now on. Like fucking enough of that, Spooky Willie.
Well, he's not. I got a demon. It's different. It's more advanced.
Yeah,
it's more advanced.
Demonic.
More advanced than a poltergeist.
Demon Willie.
Yeah. Poltergeists wish they're demonic, but they haven't made the cut yet. You got to kill someone first, and that's how a poltergeist becomes a demon. It's actually like a ladder. It's a supernatural ladder you have to climb.
Demon kill someone that I don't know about. Did the studio demon kill someone?
Not at the studio. No, I'm sure it killed someone before.
Buddy, the foundation of the studio is built on dead bodies.
This is an old house. I don't know what happened here before.
Dead orphans, everything.
Well, when I was digging the foundation for the garage where I built the studio, I did find some stuff that I can't say publicly. So,
because you put them there.
No, I did not.
You fucking vampire bastard.
You said that.
You moved the headstones, but you didn't move the graves.
I just poured right over them. They're underneath my feet right now.
It was all purposeful.
I picked this house. I searched the old newspaper records of Kelowna, found a house with a mass murder.
Yeah.
Sought it out.
The second Zell hits stop on his recording, you just hear child screams. Non-stop.
We have to edit those out.
No, they weren't children. Children weren't murdered here. They were adults.
Zell just filters it out on his audio board.
It enhances
like,
recordings.
I'm going to turn that knob.
The demonic forces actually enhance recordings in the studio.
Yeah. He's got a knob there. If you ever go to Meteor Studios to do some ADR or something, if you look closely, he's got a knob that it says child screams and it's to 0. Right? And that's just his. He just makes sure it's always at the lowest. He turns that up, it's just pandemonium.
Got to filter it out.
So, according to one of the local newspapers, the Daily Express, this was the 21st of February, 1956. All 5 members of the Hitchings family at some point including their next door neighbors, and even the landlord, had by now seen some kind of poltergeist, what they described as poltergeist activity. So there were objects moving, spontaneously, or stuff wasn't where it was, where you remember it. They were like, or things were getting turned upside down, chairs were moving. It's Craig T. Nelson time. Like all this shit's going crazy.
It definitely seemed like the radius of the activity is growing. And like, so is the popularity. Like for this kind of thing to hit the news, like, I mean, I would say at any time, that's big news. For like to run it, you're writing a paper, like the fucking poltergeist activity. Like obviously it's going to bring more eyes and more attention. And honestly, with my theory, make this thing stronger, right? Like the more mental power and attention you give this thing, the more you're feeding it.
I think the more attention is key.
Yeah.
So one of the big events that made it into the psychic news, and which you'll probably, if you search up Battersea Poltergeist, this is what the event that Wally described of the events of the 25th of February, 1956, is what stands out to most people. And in every article, you'll pretty much see it. And this is kind of pulled from one of the descriptions that Shirley said that her bedclothes were being pulled out from under her. So we all got a hold of them and we felt what was being tugged by force. And this is me inserting here, but if you remember the Watseka Wonder, this is almost like the exact same thing that happened during the Watseka Wonder. Like we talked about that, a thing where the bedclothes are like the sheets are being pulled off the bed. Right. Yeah. And they're trying to keep them on or whatever.
Enfield as well.
Right. So,
fucking Zell's experienced this kind of shit too. Like he felt a pressing on the bed. Like we have someone here who's experienced some sort of poltergeist activity. I
experience this weekly. Happens every single fucking time my wife makes the bed and tucks the fucking sheets into the bottom of the bed. As soon as I get in there, first thing I do is thrash about and get the fucking legs free. Drives me nuts. It's the worst.
But it wasn't just that something was trying to pull the bedclothes off the bed. It was that Shirley, once they got her, like they realized that she was floating about 6 inches above the bed, like rigid as a board, like not moving,
back arched.
Right. And so this is what everybody says. Like this is 100% proof that she was floating in the air, is what they said, and that they had to like pull her. They had to pull her like completely vertical in order to get it to stop, like for before the entire phenomenon.
I would have jumped on her from the top ropes, knocked her back down.
Elbow drop from the top rope. My God, she has a family.
Yeah, huge leg drop, knock her back to
right out
reality.
Of
the
air.
So now you have this.
My God.
So the idea of the Battersea Poltergeist, the news of this is now starting to get out to a bunch of different news outlets and whatever. And so now, more often than not, the Hitchings were having random people like show up to their house, and either they're reporters who want to write about what is going on, or they want to interview Shirley, or they want to see the poltergeist, or it would be mediums offering their services as well.
I would be like, honestly, if all of a sudden in the Campbell River Mere, there was an article that there was someone experienced poltergeist activity, I would be at their house tomorrow. I'd be like, can I see it? Please.
So one newspaper, the Southwestern Star, sent their reporter by the name of Ross Werge. And when Werge got there this is the 20th of February, the timelines are a little weird here, but like on the 20th of February when he got there, he interviewed Shirley and his parents, and he also talked to their grandmother. And Ethel at this point, she's very clear on what she thinks of the entire phenomenon, because Ethel at this point commented she thought it was a lot of rot. That's what she said. Those are her words. She didn't believe that she didn't think any of this was bullshit. Real. She thought it was bullshit. She's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's not ghosts.
What?
But Shirley was able to demonstrate to Werge like the tapping that was going on. And she did it by the method that she used was she took her foot and she put it on like the seat of a wooden chair, and then had words like put his hand on there, and then he could feel the tapping, and then she kind of moved her foot like to the edge of this edge of the seat, and like it would kind of move the thing, and he could still feel it.
And the thing is like at this point, like when you hear that kind of thing, like she was doing this stuff for reporters. To me, I'm like, all right, like in my head, I was like, if this was a hoax, to be honest, and I don't know if this is thinking me too highly of myself, but I'm just saying right now, there is no fucking way I walk into a house and a 15-year-old is going to like dupe me into believing, like if she's trying to hoodwink me, I just don't believe that she's going to be able to pull a fast one on me where I'm just like,
she got me.
This is a polter. Wow, what is going on? Like, and then later be like, oh, she got me. Like, I just think that you would be genuinely astounded, or you would be like, this 15-year-old is full of shit. Like, she's 15.
So at some point, they got the idea finally to try and communicate with this entity. Right now, we'll call it Spooky Willie. And so between Shirley and Wurge, they agreed to use a kind of code in order to try and communicate it. They pretty much told the ghost like 1 tap for no, 2 taps for yes, and 3 for don't know. And then
it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the way they communicated with that, like with Will on Stranger Things, right?
Right.
With the Christmas lights.
That's right.
Like,
yeah. Fuck. I didn't think about that.
So Wurge took the opportunity once they had nailed down this code for communication. They questioned Spooky Willie for something like 3 hours about trying to figure it out, and he asked like a bunch of series of questions, as you would, trying to nail down the identity of this ghost. And so what they seemed to get was that they came to the conclusion that this was the spirit of Shirley's great grandmother, Ethel's mother, who had died 40 years previously. Although a little bit later, the ghost would go ahead and claim it was a boy named Donald who had played with Shirley when they were children.
Okay,
See, I heard something completely different than that. I heard that they gave him the nickname Donald because they kept hearing from the fucking walls. But no, seriously, like I heard that they named him Donald because their grandmother saw him throwing tantrums.
Right.
Or Kitty's, like they,
I think Kitty did,
yeah.
No,
because they had a TV in the house and stuff like that, so they knew about Donald Duck. So there's a lot of stuff that Donald Duck is one of the reasons about why they named it. They were like, yeah, that's Donald.
Peak
like,
Donald
sure.
Duck.
Well, and like honestly, you have no, yes, and don't know. And the fact that they're like, after some hours, we realized that it was the spirit of Shirley's great grandmother who had died 40 years previously, and later it was a boy named Donald. I'm like, how fucking long did that take with the simple answers of yes, no, and maybe?
Well,
you'd be like,
leading questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, you go like it's like, are you a boy or a girl? Tap, whatever. It's like,
no,
are
you
a boy?
You can't say
that.
Oh,
sorry. Are you a boy? Tap.
Hey, don't gender
Are you
them.
a girl? Tap,
Hey,
tap.
don't gender them, Dan. We don't know.
Don't know.
No, that's why I'm saying you ask
don't know.
them.
And then
That's
it's
the
like,
question.
And then you have to go like, does your name start with A? Tap, tap. Does your name start with
Are you a
B?
relative? Are you
Tap,
related
tap.
to Shirley? Like,
Does your name start with C? Tap, tap. Does your name start with D? Tap. All right, we got a D. Does the second letter, is it an A? Tap, tap. Is it
Sounds
a
like
B?
you're playing Sounds like you're playing Battleship here.
So yes, fuck. The early days of communicating with would later become Donald is the name that they would eventually use for most of the time.
When did Hasbro come out with the Ouija board? I mean, they really revolutionized talking with poltergeists, right? Because like this method is fucking painful.
Yeah, it was laborious. Like it was difficult to kind of this, but it got better. So
we've gotten better at talking to ghosts, which is good.
Now, on the 21st of February of that year, the family actually began to keep an actual journal of the strange events that happened that hadn't occurred to them until now to do that. But this was also the day that Shirley was due to appear on national television to be interviewed for the BBC.
It's just so wild to me that it's like, I mean, this day and age, never Never in a million years. If you could be getting scratched daily and be like, look at this scratch. Just watch live TV as a scratch appeared. You would never make it on national live news.
Yeah. But not that long ago, you would have, though. You could have been on Ricky Lake in a heartbeat with that shit.
Yeah.
All right? It would have been everywhere.
Oh, yeah. You would 100% been on Ricky
Yeah, you could have been
Lake.
on Sightings when that was still going. That was a good show. So for this interview, prior to this, communication, like we said before, was really difficult, but the methods that they used began to evolve. So Wally was staunchly against, the time tested method of the Ouija board. He did not want to use the Ouija board. He was very, very adamant that they weren't going to use that cursed object or whatever they want to call it. But he was okay of the method to use a sheet of paper of which the alphabet would be written out and then have a person pointing to each letter to get a response.
What's the difference?
From Donald. I don't know. Because it just sounds like a Ouija board with extra steps.
You're just making your own Ouija board. You already have one made for you.
Yeah, you're like,
It's
hey,
just
listen, I want Hasbro to have none of the profits here.
Maybe that's what he was against. But it's you'd have somebody moving their finger over and waiting for him to tap for the letter. And it's that just seems and you're still interacting with the ghost. And I don't know why the Ouija board would be any different. I don't know. I'm not sure, but okay. So, but even after that one, they came up with an even more elaborate method, but maybe a little bit more efficient.
He was just using the lesser known Wally board. It never took off.
What they ended up doing was they would take a bunch of cards, each with a letter on them, and they would lay them out in a giant circle on a table, and then in the middle of that circle they would also have cards with answers to common answers to questions, yes, no, maybe. It's a Ouija board, it's a big circle Ouija board. And but then they would move their hand around the circle and then wait for Donald to tap or make some type of acknowledgement of that's the letter that they're thinking, and then they would spell out and then they would write out his message about what he was saying. I was like, just get a Ouija board. Really, come on.
Let the ghost do the spelling for you.
But one thing that did come out of all of this was that the poltergeist had really bad spelling.
Well, all right. Did it have spelling? Was it bad at spelling, or was it trying to save time? You know what I mean?
No, it was bad. It was bad spelling. There's
He had sausage. Some people are bad texters because they have sausage thumbs.
Maybe he was using a bad. Yeah, he was using a bad thumb.
You're just
board.
mashing 5 letters at once.
Yeah, he was using the little
an ELS
motion.
Maybe this is ESL fucking poltergeist.
Yeah, he's not using.
We'll get to that part too.
All right, let's take a quick beer break right there, and we'll get back to this dyslexic poltergeist. We'll be right back.
We're back.
So the family, the media, and the public are all gearing up and eagerly awaiting this big event that was scheduled for the evening of the 22nd of February, where Donald, the poltergeist that had been plaguing the Hitchings family, was going to be exorcised. Now,
good old exorcism.
Good old-fashioned exorcism.
How do you exorcise a house?
Wasn't the house?
It's a fucking geist named Donald.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I agree with Braden, because exorcism's like a demon's inside you. But this is demon. The poltergeist is the house demon, if you want to look at it that way.
Sure.
I seem to remember
by the strictest
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
Yeah, I think they had
No.
kind of settled on the idea that it was some type of kind of possession case kind of going on. I guess poltergeist in the strictest sense is not an accurate term to refer to this entity, I suppose. More like a possession of some type or cohabitation, I guess, something.
Got to remember too, this is a part-time medium. Maybe he's not fucking.
Yeah, maybe he's not making the right call. Yeah, it's true.
He's part-time.
That's true. So Hanks was going to perform this exorcism at his home in Grove Way, Stockwell, which is about 1.5 miles west of Wycliffe Road, where the Hitchings family lived. Now, there were going to be people there, not just Hanks. It was going to be Hanks, his family, like his wife and his daughter, plus some photographers, reporters, and a TV cameraman. plus Wally was going to be there to ensure Shirley's safety, and they were all going to kind of cram into the one, the common room of where they were. Now, they had the cameraman there, though unfortunately for us, Hanks refused to allow any photography or film during the
photography. No flash photography.
During the actual procedure, the actual exorcism itself, because he felt that would interfere with the conditions that were needed for the exorcism.
To prove that he is full of shit.
So
I want no evidence of this because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Maybe let's just say because they said electronic devices and stuff scares this stuff away. So it's like if you're trying to capture it into a room or a place to then expel it.
What do you mean electronic devices? This is 1956. You got fucking cameras made of stone with woodpeckers inside fucking carving out the fucking image.
It's a living.
Yeah. Nice.
So any of the footage or photos that you will see on the internet of the actual things, like those were actually staged for after the actual exorcism had taken place. Pretty much, yeah. Like they were they had everybody there, so they wanted to get something. But all of those,
they got all their robes on and shit. You gotta fucking get a good picture of it, right?
So the exorcism pretty much. The exorcism pretty much went down like this. They sang a couple Christian songs. Onward, Christian soldiers.
I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
They had a piano.
I'm gonna let it shine.
They had a Mrs. Ada Rodin accompanying on the upright piano.
I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And then they went into the Lord. Yeah. And then they went into the Lord is my shepherd. And then after that, which was fun. Wait, you don't know that. And that was followed by a period of contemplative silence and prayer. In order
they closed it out.
They closed it out with Spirit in the Sky. They didn't know any more songs. They just all sat there like, oh.
Hey, we sang Spirit in the Sky. Hits. Close it out.
We sang all the hits.
This silence was suddenly broken by the sound of a pounding on the front door. Like seconds after the silence, like the silence was going on. So they sent Mrs. Hanks downstairs to check
it was
what was making
Grandma.
this noise.
Shut up!
Well, Grandma was like a mile and a half away. Did she walk all the way there?
She's 6'4". She took 3 steps and she's there. She's
huge. Mrs. Hanks returned after checking the front door to inform her husband that there were 2 policemen at the door.
Hanks, hey, listen. I'm the cops. I pound on the door. I see a 15-year-old girl surrounded by fucking dudes in cloaks. Just start blasting. I don't even ask questions.
It might have complicated matters a little bit because when Hank's wife, Mrs. Hank's wife, tried to relay this information to him, he didn't respond because he was so deeply entranced in the procedure of the exorcism. So he didn't even respond to her, apparently, while she was trying to deal with these policemen, because she was trying to tell them that this wasn't anything super serious, because apparently what the police had been told was that while they were patrolling Brixton Road in their car, they had received an order to go to Groveway, where Hank's house was located. And because an anonymous call had notified Scotland Yard that there was a black magic ceremony taking place at that address.
Yeah, you start blasting, man. I guess they don't have guns back then. Start billy clubbing.
Well, they just whistles. So I started clubbing.
Do they have guns now?
Bobbies.
That's you. No.
The English clubs.
UK, they just club you.
I think they have like special. They get special units that carry, but for like the
not standard
patrol
issue
officers and stuff like that, fucking billy clubs and
when you first responders there are beating you. Second responders are shooting you.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Hanks apparently did her best to try to explain that what was going on was actually a spiritualist meeting and that it was perfectly legal in the eyes of the law. So,
in the eyes of the Lord, which thought it matters.
Which I would think be arguable because black magic. I would lump in necromancy, the communicating with the dead, bringing up the dead, like as black magic.
Isn't that when you bang the dead?
Well,
that's necrophilia.
Oh, okay.
That's different.
yeah,
It's one of the
like funny. Oddly enough, I know UK and Canada are common law, so it's a little Dan like it's not the same for you, but like up until like the latest revision of like the Canadian Criminal Code, like 2 years ago, like fortune telling was legit not allowed according to the Criminal Code of Canada.
Oh, yeah, but
Like,
hey, listen,
witchcraft,
Mrs. Cleo
witchcraft-
better not bring her ass to Canada.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta
witchcraft
say.
Stay out of
and
here.
fucking witchcraft and fortune telling and like a bunch of the shit was not allowed.
Blasphemy.
As of like 2 years ago, so 2023, like 2020, that stuff got removed from the Criminal Code of Canada. So I can imagine it like this time in England, the Criminal Code was probably like fucking black magic. Like all this shit was probably in the Criminal Code. Like this ain't okay. This isn't above
Buddy, this
board.
is not that far removed from like the vampire panic and shit like that. Like
Yeah,
this does
this
not
is true.
surprise me.
Yeah.
And then we have the fucking satanic panic in a fucking few years. Like,
So for a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes, the cops, she invited the police in to actually watch and listen to the proceedings of what was going on. And then they finally left, and they were pretty much satisfied that whatever was going on, they didn't see it as being against the law. So they,
I mean, it's
left.
fucking weird, but it's not illegal, I guess.
So soon after they left, apparently Hanks was possessed by his African spirit guide. That's how they describe it. He is infused by some type of guardian guide spirit with the name of Sambo.
I think it's Sambo.
Who spoke through him in a deep voice, and Sambo declared that the exorcism had worked.
And for some reason in my mind, when I think this, Sambo speaks in the third person.
My name is Sambo.
No, so it's like Sambo declares this has worked.
I'll be honest, like, is Sambo, first of all, not only is it like a martial art, but I'm pretty sure Sambo is like a derogatory term for African Americans.
What?
It's pretty terrible.
Probably.
Yeah.
I never heard of
Which
that.
is kind
I
of
should've
terrible
said-
that he's like, my name is Sambo. Like,
I should have
Yeah,
said
it's
pretty awful.
It would probably I wouldn't doubt that back then it was something pretty culturally insensitive. Like I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Oh, Sambo is a derogatory label for a person of African descent in the English language.
Yeah.
We're Kansas.
So
So
it's
sorry,
like
50s.
everybody. We didn't know.
Didn't know.
We won't.
You do
It'll-
now.
Now you know.
It'll now
I
be-
guarantee nobody knew that before now.
Yeah. Well, it's now.
It was all.
referred
Hey,
to
it's also a Russian martial art, though, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. It's like a
Well, when we refer to it in the when we're calling people the derogatory word, we'll refer to it as the S word.
It's
Yeah.
this word. It's derived from a Spanish term for a person of African descent, but that's the English version of it, I guess.
Honestly, it's a nice word.
It sounded like a nice
Like
word.
honestly,
Sambo.
it sounds like a nice word. Like Sambo, like it's
No, it's not. It's not a nice sounding word, and we don't endorse it at all.
Yeah.
no, but I'm like in the Russian context.
No,
like, I'm
no,
like,
no.
oh,
You're pulling it down here.
it's
You're like,
soft.
oh no, I was, like, just shut the fuck up about
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
It's bad.
Now you know.
Let it die.
Now you all know.
Sports and N word.
Can't say it. S word.
S word, N word.
Can't say it.
So after they had completed the ceremony, Hanks explained that him and his guide had managed to drive the spirit away that had been possessing Shirley, and that they had sealed her aura, which apparently had been damaged at some point, and they created a psychic barrier around her that would protect her from the molestations of other
I'm glad her
spirits.
auras remained sealed throughout this trip to fucking Hank's house.
Yeah, the
fucking
molestation of others.
Yeah.
Mine is Hank.
So after this, the Hitchings said that they experienced pretty much a period of peace. Like there weren't any the sounds discontinued. Like everybody was able to get a good night's sleep for once. There wasn't that much activity going on until a couple days later or weeks later. You had two reporters from the Weekend Mail who would come and call on the house, and they wanted to interview Shirley after getting permission from her parents and take her to their Fleet Street offices to go ahead and interview her about the events that had occurred up before that point. So when they got to her office, they actually encouraged her to demonstrate the poltergeist tapping sounds. And so, and they tried to, they were trying to, there's no other really way to put it like the way it's described in, in the book that I was reading for researching on this, it's like they were really aggressive about what they were trying to do. Like they tried to get her to do this, and they were trying to figure out. I mean, I think they were starting from the idea that this was a hoax. Like she was doing something in order. So they were starting from that point, and that's not really a good way to start an investigation. But they just went into that, and then. It's even said that they went as far to try and they had an actual female reporter strip Shirley to make sure she wasn't hiding some type of clicking device or something like that.
So hold on. I just want to point out really quickly, the psychic barrier that protected her from the molestation of others did not work.
Spirits. It's only spirits.
Only spirits.
They didn't find anything. They find any devices like that. But the reporters asked Shirley apparently to remove these winter boots that she was wearing, and they thought that she might be clicking her toe or her toes in order to produce a sound. And if people remember, if that sounds familiar, it certainly does, because it's the Fantastic Fox sisters. You're probably remembering from the mid 1800s. They were like a sister group that basically they did this kind of thing. And a lot of people to this day still think this is what Shirley was doing, was that like they was producing like a popping or clicking sound with her toes. That's what they did with the Fox sisters did when they found out it was a hoax. Like it was like they were popping their toes. They had this uncanny ability to like pop their toes and make it really loud.
Like your fingers, but like your toes.
Kind of. It was like something like that. But it was like, I can't remember the exact description, but they had some sort of talent where they were able to like really pop it so you could really hear it, disturbingly loud popping of your toes. And that's what they thought. That's what they thought she was doing. And it didn't help.
So just to disprove her, they fucking got a 15-year-old fucking buck-ass naked man. They're like, what the fuck? Who is running this newspaper?
Yeah, they're like,
so,
all right,
did she not have the ability to be like, no, thank you?
Like the sound, like she was able to produce the sounds. Like the sounds were coming. They didn't know from where. But after they had her remove the boots, though, the sound stopped.
Okay. All right, probably because they decided to start spraying her with a fucking hose when it didn't work.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Christ. It's like, okay, so say like, let's just say for a second, this poltergeist is a troll. You know what I mean? Like that's the nature of a poltergeist.
Whoa,
like,
what do you mean it's a troll? Like a troll under the bridge?
No, like to fuck with you. Like it's just there to like, it just loves fucking with you.
Scam?
So it knows when you're like it's like watching like the boots off. That's like, yeah, now I'm not going to do anything because this is funny. Right, because now they're going to think that you're naked. It's the boots, but you're standing there fucking butt naked.
That, like, we're going to get into it a little bit later, but that doesn't really fit into this fucking poltergeist MO. He's usually fucking going to bat for old Shirley girl here.
So after that whole series of events, the reporters brought in a man who greeted Shirley, and apparently, according to her account, was speaking with some type of foreign accent. And the newspaper described this person as a member of the Hypnotists Association, who had a reputation for psychiatric work. So he was going to try and hypnotize. I mean, that was still big back then.
Use some air quotes on that.
But Shirley refused to pretty much obey the man's request to do anything to relax or any of the
well, she was still standing there butt naked, so I would.
Well, I'm sure she wasn't naked at this point. I'm sure they took her in a different room with the female.
Yeah, but
reporter.
why would she cooperate with these people if they treat her like shit?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. Like, there's no reason for her to be cooperating with these people. Like I said, they seem to be really pushy, really aggressive. Man, so F this noise.
Awful. It's a child, man.
And so, she refused to cooperate with the hypnotist, and, the doctor just pretty much gave up because, for hypnotism to work, you kind of have to be willing, like the participant has to be willing on some level to kind of do it. So it wasn't going to work, like just off of that.
She found out this guy's last name wasn't Sprinkle, and she's like, this guy ain't shit.
Yeah. Fuck's this guy. No shit.
Ain't shit. Leon Sprinkles.
And so, according to her account, she made it home after 6 hours. They had her for 6 hours, and she was understandably upset and distressed about the events that happened. Yeah. And that's when the poltergeist disturbances started up again.
It's feeding on her energy.
So before that they were quiet, like nothing was really happening, and then after that interview, that you probably say traumatic event that she went through, the poltergeist disturbances started up again. So on the Friday morning after that, Wally telephoned Hanks again and told him to come quickly to try and, to get this out, to do something again, because that seemed to work the last time. And so Hanks kind of listened to Shirley when he got over there and explained that the poltergeist was back and that these noises seemed to be louder than they were before. And so Hanks volunteered to kind of host Shirley at his home.
Oh, wow. Wow. What a nice guy.
And it's also around this time that I believe that Hanks actually thought that maybe this wasn't so much a thing about like a singular spirit as that it had something to do with Shirley having some kind of innate like psychic ability. Hanks talks about his personal kind of journey as a medium. Like he talked about like his experiences started when he was 10. And then on from there, it wasn't until later that he recognized like, he saw basically I see dead people, strange appearances and whatnot, and he couldn't explain them. And it wasn't until later that he embraced this ability to summon spirits and African spirit guides with politically incorrect names. Yeah. And so Hanks thought this was what was happening to Shirley, that she had some type of exceptional ability, or that she was some type of beacon that was attracting different spirits. Like he believed that like it wasn't just one spirit. It was that they had gotten rid of one and then there was another one that had kind of taken its place. And he believed that this one was the spirit of a woman who had committed suicide on Wycliffe Road years before.
See, I honestly, that's why I think this thing's a troll. I don't think it's multiple spirits. I think it's one thing just fucking with people. Like, I think it's just like something coming through the void that's just like, I just want to cause a little bit of chaos. Like, it's not really hurting anyone. Like, it's not like, yes, it's affecting people's mental health and stuff, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really fucking. So it's like all this stuff about multiple personalities and things. I think this is just like the poltergeist spirit. Like, I think this is what these things do. I think they just change and manipulate and fuck with you.
But don't they usually say like poltergeists are usually like childlike in nature?
Well, it would seem like
I remember reading that. Like that's one of the key
in some of the things. Yeah, it's
well, and like the majority, like it's like a childlike spirit that's attacking,
and it attaches with a youth or adolescent. So like, yeah, maybe it's right.
Usually an adolescent female in the UK.
Yeah,
from what we've seen.
Oh, I would say they're like the gist of poltergeists. Like poltergeists are definitely the most prominent poltergeists are in the UK. 100% stories of poltergeists.
So at some point, the communications with the spirit started up again. They set up the whole Ouija board. That's not a Ouija board.
Wally
board. Wally board. Yeah, I guess the Wally board. Or Shirley board, I guess. And then, so they started to communicate a little bit better with the spirit. And the first time you get a really good message from it is the one that Shirley took down. And this is the very first time. So let me I'll read it out. So
hold on. Read it in character.
I don't like. No, it would be bad. I can't do it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay. I don't want to.
Yes,
no, because it's going to be really stupid.
Yes, you can.
I am 15. I come from France. Chanel cannot remember my name. I had a girl like you. Don't know this. Not aware of me. I want someone to tell him. I want a happiness between you two. Won't go until it made it so. Let me go happy by telling Ronald of me, but not to his family. He must keep me a secret between you and me and to himself. Give this to Koch. Let no one see it. Get Koch. But you keep secret and tell Mark if you have fought her, I'd be angry and set fire. Like that
was like the best cross between Japanese and French I've ever heard in my life. So that was perfect. You gotta cap it with a
right. We'll
Vive la France.
Yeah. So this is the first real message that you get an idea of like what kind of persona is this poltergeist is inhabiting or forming.
But here's the thing: is like everything leading up to this, You've not got that kind of persona. They're like before this moment where they're like, now it's this. You haven't. That's why I think it's just this thing fucking with them. Like this thing doesn't have a singular persona. Much like nowadays we don't be like, oh, like whatever genders are fucking bending situation we've got going on now. This is the same thing. Like it's like you're trying to put this thing in a circle, and it's like, no, I can be all things. I'm fucking with you. Like I'm French now, and now I'm this. Like it's just sitting there, just being like, yeah, I'll be whatever I want.
Well,
to be
how
at
do
the
we
time.
know that it's the same? How do we know it's the same fucking ghost though? Too could be different ones. You could be channeling different ones every time you reach out.
Like maybe, but it's like because this thing's fucking with them constantly. To me, I think the essence of a poltergeist, if like in terms that we understand nowadays, is a troll. It's a troll spirit. Like it's just fucking with you to be funny. Like whatever it's doing, it thinks it's being funny, and the more attention you give it, it's like the more elaborate the jokes become.
So with this communication kind of set down by the poltergeist, there are examples like in there are multiple misspellings of words. Like for example, when he said 15, he spells it not 15, he spells it Fivhteen.
15.
When he
spells it with his
15.
accent.
Yeah.
15.
When he wants to spell father, he spells it Fahter.
Fodder.
Fodder.
And
Right,
when
funny.
he refers to Kirch, they had to take a little bit of liberty there and try to interpret what they meant. They figured that it referred to one Michael Kirsch, who was a K-I. It's spelled Kerch, and Kirsch was Kirsch, and he was one of the many reporters that had been calling at number 63. And so Shirley, in her recollections of meeting him, was that he was friendly, but he was also deeply skeptical about what was going on. And there's also kind of some descriptions and suspicions that Shirley was attracted to him. She kind of described him in some accounts as he was really nice looking. I fancied him, and so. But it wasn't really clear as to whether
that was
these
Shirley
feelings
herself
were
saying that.
right.
Those weren't accounts of that. Shirley said that. She was like,
Yeah.
I remember thinking he was hot, and
Right.
I was like, I fucking want him.
So the poltergeist, is telling them to bring them. It seems to be implied that you're going to bring it here, or I'm going to burn this motherfucker down. And so after this, though, the ghost does take on a little bit of a more, like a bit more violent streak. There's a couple more accounts about the like a bit more pyromania going on, where there were things that were starting to catch fire. Matches were being struck without knowing, but matches would go missing.
What was the case where we were talking about
There's a secret smoker.
What's that? I wonder was the same thing as the
light?
burning
Is
of
that
matches.
the matches, yeah.
Yeah, and the matches and the mysterious fires starting in the house, and nobody knows how they started. So enter in another one of the big things about this. We finally get to it, but it's Harold Chibbett. Harold Chibbett,
Chibs,
the Chibmeister.
yeah.
Harold Chibbett was a pretty well-known, well-connected person in the area of psychical research. He was born in 1900 in Islington, North London. He served in the army during the First World War, and he kind of
a pilot.
and he worked for the civil service in London. So, after the First World War, he became deeply interested in spiritualism and psychical research. Again, he, struggling to cope with the loss of people during the war. When Chibbett first heard about the poltergeist, apparently he was living in North London, and he was working at the tax office up there. So he was able to kind of go and visit the Battersea Poltergeist, right? So he called on the Hitchings on the evening of Tuesday, 6th of March, and they kind of invited him to chat with Shirley and his parents. And I think Chibbett, like a lot of the information that we have now is from Chibbett and his research, like about
his
this.
documents. Yeah.
He's a very thorough researcher. People kind of described him as a person who would, like, he believed in this. He wanted to believe, but he never let his beliefs kind of get in the way of the stuff that he saw challenging his preconceptions. So he was always trying to figure out whether, and you know, he, from here on, it's pretty much like all of his correspondence and stuff like this. He's always trying to figure out if it's actually real. He's never 100% on board, but he's always just trying to, he doesn't believe it's a hoax, but he wants to know exactly what's going on.
He's so thorough, he camped out on their kitchen floor in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Like, no joke. Like this, it's either, okay, but here's the thing. It's like, is he that thorough, or is he just like a homeless war vet that needs a place to stay?
No, I mean, no, he
just grifting.
He had a good job.
Like, I'll solve it. Like, I fucking just feed me and let me sleep here, and we're good.
He had a good job. Like his job was good. I think they were actually pretty well off. I believe. That's
what he led you to believe.
Okay,
exactly.
I mean,
he's
him
just
and
a
his
grifter. He had nowhere to
sleep.
sleep.
He did retire at some point. He was able to take a holiday, like go travel to Paris and all this stuff. Like, he did retire at some point.
Yeah, what's that?
He retired on the fucking people's fucking kitchen floor. That was it.
He's the inventor of couch surfing.
Smart.
So you have Chibbett coming in here, and he begins to kind of take an interest in this, and Chibs
he prefers to call Chibs. Just call him Chibs.
So Chibs takes a interest in the Battersea Poltergeist and Donald and Shirley, and kind of what the relationship is here, and what's exactly going on, and trying to figure out exactly what it was that is going on. Now, from the communications that Donald's kind of throwing out, he has some weird obsession with Kirsch, and he couldn't really, like, Kirsch didn't really decide to, like, come back. Like, it wasn't really, they try to contact him, but he doesn't really feel like coming back. Like, again, like we said, he was deeply skeptical about what's going on, and you just get letters like trying to get you to come back, and you're like, why would I come back? I assume that's what's kind of going on. And he had no interest in coming back. So apparently, after that kind of happened, and he rebuffed these invitations to come back, the Donald, like, moved its obsession to another. The Donald moved.
Maxwell, Kirsch, no good. He's no good.
Right. He moves on to a Donald. It's Jeff and David Maxwell, who are both, like, actors, TV actors. Apparently, Shirley was a big fan of, like, historical based series, historical set series on TV, and she would watch a lot of those. And Donald wanted to
whatever
meet
Downton Abbey was back then.
Yeah, kind of like that, or Robin Hood kind of stuff, like any of those kinds of ones. And pretty much, like, again, Donald was not exactly kind in his requests. It was pretty much like, there was one, get Maxwell, Kirsch no good. I will set house afire if you don't get Maxwell, so take care. Like, it was constant threats. And I don't know how the family dealt with it, because it's like constant threats of this poltergeist trying to burn your house down. This was like a regular thing for like a year. Like, what? I don't know how you stand this. I know how they did not go insane.
You don't go insane because the house never burns down. So you're like, this.
It's true.
I attempted.
There were a couple attempted arsons at the house. Ghost arsons, spectral arsons. The house never ever burnt down or anything like this. But the thing is like, they had to actually take, like, Wally started to take, like, physical precautions to try and not let them burn the house down. Like, when he would leave, like, he'd unplug all of the electrical devices. He'd, like, turn off all the breakers to, like, the electric stove and stuff like that. Like, anything that could, like, be turned on, like the burners and the stove and stuff, he would take all that stuff offline when he left the house in the morning to go to work. Like, just the fact that that's something extra that you have to think about, and you have to take that as just, I don't know how people would deal with that today. You have to just deal with it. So apparently on Wednesday, March 14th, one of Wally's sisters, Nell, who lived on Lavender Hill at the end of Wycliffe Road, invited she lived there with her husband, Bill, and a younger daughter. She had invited Shirley to come stay with her for a short time because just to, kind of take the burden off or something, kind of just be like, okay, help out. But so when they took Shirley, apparently the morning that she was supposed to leave, the tapping had started in the morning at her home, and then it ceased when Shirley left to go visit her aunt.
It's interesting.
But then
that points to it being tied to Shirley because like the second she
but
leaves,
we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen that though. We saw that with Enfield. We saw it like these poltergeists follow the person that they choose. They usually key on somebody and they go with them.
They're attached.
But-
It's a poltergeist. It's like I said, like a guardian angel. But it's a
Yeah.
poltergeist. Everyone's got one.
and it must have been the
I know.
case because Nell did not tolerate these antics for very long, because on Saturday morning she brought Shirley back, or apparently Shirley was brought back in a police car. They sent her back. They just had enough. They're just like, no,
like just we've had
Get
it.
out.
We've had it. Yeah.
it did. Now the case of the poltergeist like takes lots of twists and turns, because this is a very
12 years.
It's 12 years. Like
12 fucking years. This
the
poor
experiences
family.
and the things that happen are just like a ton of stuff that just happens, little tiny events and little tiny things that start happening. Some of the bigger ones that happened is you had the one where there was this strange interaction that Donald had with Chibs on March 18th. When Chibs came to visit him, apparently he the tapping had started sometime around midnight, and Chibbett decided to go ahead and since he was being active, he decided to question Donald about some things. And one of the responses he got was, "I will do harm to anyone who don't believe in flying saucers."
Woo! We're golden boys.
There we go.
Yep.
I like that.
So on this topic, also Chibs was also a member of the science fiction writing society in Britain. He was like one of the more prominent
Don't
members.
say.
He was a fan of science fiction, and so this might be something that guy picked up like while he had been there. Maybe the poltergeist had overheard him talking about it, perhaps. But he got the idea that like this would be the perfect time to question, this otherworldly entity about life on other planets and things like this. So he asked him a couple of questions. Like for instance, he asked him, "Does life similar to human beings exist on other planets?" "No," replied Donald. But he did claim apparently that there were things up to 8 feet tall out there, and that life of some sort existed on Jupiter,
fucking
Mars, Saturn,
Grandma
Mercury,
Ethel.
and Pluto, but not on Venus or the moon.
Well, it's funny. It like instantly contradicts itself. It's like, does anything else live out there? No. Well, yes, in this cases.
Well, he said, they're
not like us.
Yeah, he says similar to human
Because they're
beings.
octopuses.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess
Does
so.
life similar to human beings exist on other planets? And it said no. But it said other things live. There's other sorts of life on Jupiter, Mars,
Yeah,
Saturn,
octopuses.
Mercury, and Pluto, but not Venus or the moon.
Yeah.
And then Chibs also asked Donald like where he came from himself. And Donald replied with, "I come from the atmosphere."
That's so weird. Strange.
From the atmosphere.
Yeah.
An air beam.
So you had these things that they were still trying to nail down exactly like what Donald was, apparently, like where he was from, like what spirit he was, if he was a person or things like this.
You know what the weird thing for me is? The weird thing for me is the questions and answers. Does it not remind you of like all of us now have fucked with ChatGPT? Does it not remind you of fucking answers like when you fucking ask and like an artificial intelligence stuff where you're just like, where it gives weird responses. You're like, okay, what was that? What's that? Like, that's what I kind of got for this. And I'm like,
Donald's the first AI is what you're
oh,
saying?
maybe. Or like, I don't know. I don't know. Like it comes from the atmosphere. Like maybe these things get to a point where it's just like time is not existent to these things, right? Like in artificial intelligence.
So eventually they get to a point where Shirley had a friend over on the 19th of May, and they talked to the poltergeist Donald, and they kind of try to figure out and asked him like who he really was. His response was I am Donald in this age. I am originally, which is they interpret as originally. It's spelled Aridgenly. Louis 17th, son of Louis the 16th of the house of Louis Monlion Ha.
I am Louis. I have two brothers named Dewey and Huey.
Yeah.
No, but for real.
Yeah,
listen, Donald,
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now. What does Geist mean? Ghost, polter, duck, goose. All comes back to DuckTales, boys.
Fucking
That's all it is. It's fucking DuckTales. I'm telling you, poltergeist, it's fucking Donald. Ducks. I'm seeing ducks everywhere. Duckburg. That's it. Cracked it. Over.
Face file over.
So now Donald, who was now calling himself Louis, there was a couple of facts they managed to kind of nail down about the poltergeist, personal details. And it was that one, he was born in 1798. Two, he had apparently drowned in the English Channel at the age of 15. Three, he died before the French Revolution. 4, he was the firstborn son of the French King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette. And then 5, he was entitled to call himself Louis XVII. Not just, sometimes he was Donald, sometimes he was Louis. It gets a little mixed up at some points. Like sometimes he would. There is a point where there is regular correspondence by the ghost. And I mean, like there are notes being left around, like in handwriting around the house that the family starts to discover and kind of pick up. And they would be signed either Donald, and then sometimes it would be like Louis, and then sometimes it would be whatever. So whatever personality, I suppose, was dominant that day that it was trying to sign out these things. So these correspondences, a lot of them, like I said, we have a little more than a decade of an experience of all of this stuff that's going on. You have, they range from the like psychotic ramblings of being like, I'm going to burn the house down, to tiny little niceties even about like, they would wish everybody a happy new year or a Merry Christmas. He would send out Christmas card correspondence to
Feliz
everybody.
Navidad.
And Wally, the weird thing is that the family seemed to just take it in stride. They eventually just became accustomed
for fucking
to
12
this presence.
years. I mean, what are you going to be in terror for 12 years? Like eventually you're just going to be like, I don't fucking care anymore.
And it is like, there's a certain extent where I could be like, okay, you're just tolerating it, but there is a point where it's like they are accommodating it because, like, for example, those like it would write Christmas cards to people, address them to people. Wally would put stamps on them and take them to the mailbox and mail them out to whoever they were addressed to. Like,
That's fucking
he didn't just
weird.
like dump them. He was just like, no, they actually mailed them out to people.
But here's the thing, right? Like
He doesn't want his fucking house lit on fire.
Well, and you're giving this thing power, right? Like these people put more energy and mental thought in this thing than like, that's what I'm saying is like, when you feed this thing, it grows, right? And that's what it seems like it did. Like it's maybe it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so say if it took on personalities and we're saying like, that's just a personality at the time. Maybe when you give these kind of poltergeist things attention and they start to grow, other spirits that are stuck in purgatory, or let's say like that are just kicking around, funnel to this beacon where they're like, oh, people are listening here. Like, I got to get in. Right. And so it's like you have this like swarm of like paranormal activity of a bunch of different personalities vying to get their message through back to the land of the living. You know what I mean? Because they know this is, people are paying attention, people are feeding, and manifesting this portal or between realms here. That's what I was thinking.
So now on the 10th of February, and I think this is 1956, things took a weird turn, weirder than they have been. Like, I know everything's been weird up to this point, but this is probably
how can it get any weirder?
This is one of my favorite descriptions of the accounts of what went on during this, is that apparently Shirley started hearing a voice that was calling, and it was a specific name. She said that it was calling out Natalie. And then apparently an hour and a half later after that, Wally found a message that was written on the wall in the front room, this room that they referred to as the front room, where apparently this is where Shirley had moved. Like Donald at some point had demanded that she move to the front room. The front room was, incidentally, the nicest place, the nicest room.
Was her parents' room when she took it over? Yeah.
The master bedroom. Yeah. I must take over the master with the walk-in and the ensuite. I must. Sorry.
So this message that was scrawled on the wall spelled out, "I want Natalie." After them eating their evening meal, apparently Shirley and I think her friend Doreen went into what they called Donald's room to kind of communicate with Donald. They were going to call. They called it. They started to refer to it as working the glass, like because they used a wine glass in that circular setup that we talked about before. They would use a wine glass. It's a Ouija board, and then they found out that the voice that was trying to communicate with them was claimed to be the spirit of James Dean.
What?
The 24-year-old American film star who had died in a car crash in September of 1955.
What would they ask him?
Well, James Dean would communicate with them for some time, and he would be writing and then sometimes also tapping. But apparently none of those original letters have survived after this. But it was said that I think Chibs took he managed to get his hands on some of the correspondence that was claimed to have been written out by the James Dean personification. And
what did it say? Don't drive Porsches.
Right. He said that the handwriting by the Donald and the handwriting by James Dean seemed to be different. Right. There's also like an account of like an interaction between the two, like the Donald talking about like the Donald only knew how to write. He didn't know how to work a typewriter. But he would talk about James Dean as they were like cohabitating in Shirley's body and being like, he's teaching me how to type, how to work the typewriter.
Well, it's like I said, it kind of seems like it's like this is just an opening and everything at this point is trying to get through, right? Like that's kind of what it feels like, because you're like, oh, now it's fucking Louis the 17th. Now it's James Dean, right? Like it just seems like pandemonium in the spirit realm of things trying to get through.
So you would have these strange events that would go on, and like we said, in 12 years. And so finally, I guess you could say on the 25th of August, 1963, Chibit received a letter from Donald, which they had always been corresponding, essentially. And this letter revealed that Shirley, who is now 22, was in love, and that she had started seeing a man by the name of Derek. And Donald said that he wished the couple well. Now, the strange thing is that Shirley had relationships before this. Like she had other suitors, but they had all kind of ran off. Either ran off by Donald, or the idea of that kind of stuff going on. She hadn't really had any success in relationships up until this point. But apparently, she had met this Derek, and they had hit it off. I guess they had went on some time. It was kind of a nice story where they apparently went on a double date with like different. They went on a double date, but it wasn't. They weren't
double date
the
with different poltergeists. They were both possessed by poltergeists.
No, they went on double dates with like different people, but they found out that they were more compatible than the people they had went on the date with. So then they ended up meeting and hanging out, and then being whatever. So the best part of this story is that it got serious, and they and the family felt that it was serious enough that they had to mention Donald. And I feel like this is just a weird conversation you have to have. Like, okay, Shirley, do you really like Derek? Do you really want, because we're going to have to tell him.
Have you told Derek about Donald?
We're going to have to tell him about Donald. Like, I feel like that would be a fun conversation to sit on.
Here's the thing though, is you don't listen, you're growing up, you're getting old, You're going to move out, you meet somebody. You don't. That's her first fucking mistake. She could have nipped this shit in the bud right away. She could have just looked at him and been like, listen, Donnie, don't stress out. Pull the deadbeat dad. I'm going to buy a pack of smokes. I'll be back. Don't wait. You know what? Even better. I'll be back when the Angels win the pennant. All right, that's when I'll be fucking back. All right, so you just stick around and you wait. I'll be right fucking back. And then you just leave, and that fucking poltergeist stays there, and fucking bingo, bango, bongo. Polty, gonzo.
But by all accounts, though, when they told Derek, like, Derek had no idea how to react. Because I don't know how you would. You'd be like, our daughter, we love her, but she is also possessed by the demon of a Louis the 15th, former king, I guess would be current king.
He knows what's
France.
up. Crazy girls are the best. Crazy girls are the best.
And you know, he also kind of, I guess he went on for a while just believing that it was a joke. There was a period where he just thought that there was some kind of weird joke that was going on. But when he realized that this was something that he was just going to have to live with, he just said, okay. He just seemed to accept it. For the sake of Shirley or their relationship, which is kind of nice. And they, they went to go on and by all accounts live happily ever after.
Right? They paid no more mind to it, and this thing shriveled and died.
Well, not exactly.
Not necessarily, though. Apparently, she had another encounter in 1980 where she was at a craft fair. And apparently a medium came up behind her and tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, like, sorry to creep you out, but I think you should know that there's an energy that's following you. And this energy is a little boy dressed in a fancy blue satin. And he's got red hair. And he has a message for you.
What?
He wants you to know that he's sorry for the way he behaved and he wants you to forgive him.
What?
And that was her last encounter.
And that's usually by most descriptions of Louis, the youngest child, Louis the 17th, though it was his method of dress was the blue satin, kind of an aristocratic, at least that's what it would seem like if you on the surface. There were some events apparently that besides that one that happened and were attributed to Donald, like in their house, like them living together. But there was nothing ever that Derek admitted that ever really kind of, he said that was something that he couldn't be explained some other way. He never got the, I'm going to burn this fucking house to the ground stuff, I guess. Like
she was happy.
Yeah.
She was happy. She was content.
So yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of.
Hey, listen. I think Braden nailed this when he said like the attention exacerbated everything. The attention. Oh, hey, we're getting the attention, but it was the attention that the 15-year-old girl that was getting. Simple as that. Look at this guy's listen to the Donald's list of fucking demands. Okay, he got a little bit fucking crazy when this girl's parents tried to make her get a job. All right.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He got fucking crazy and wanted to burn the house down when she didn't get her own room. So what did they do? They gave her their bedroom, the best bedroom in the house. Okay. He got fucking pissed off when they didn't want to buy her a pet hamster.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
She forced them to buy her new clothes.
Oh, it wanted a cat too. After the hamster, it wanted a cat, and they wouldn't get her a cat.
He also got fucking infuriated when they didn't put in every fucking effort possible to arrange a meeting between her and a movie star that she was infatuated with named Jeremy Spencer.
Jeremy Spencer, yeah.
Okay.
He got real crazy about that one. That was a real long obsession for like years.
Like, are we serious here, boys? This is ridiculous.
But it was funny because I think Jeremy Spencer actually corresponded, like would write back and be like, or at least his manager.
His publicist did.
His manager or whatever, rap back. It's like, oh, it's very nice that you've taken an interest in me. Like, I feel it's just constant.
Right, and then all of a sudden you get this like romantic kind of story where, oh no, Donald is actually this fucking long dead fucking prince that's obviously in love with her. And you know what I mean? Like, it's all fucking horseshit.
It's pretty.
Come on. She played her poor family like a fucking fiddle, killed her grandma. Grandma Ethel fucking died. All right, like this is of course she didn't admit to fucking doing this.
There are a lot of people who would be on the same page as that, and they said that it is perhaps due to Donald that she afforded a lifestyle that would be beyond her means because
she's famous.
Well, she was also unemployed for a long period. Like to a point, like her friends were all making fun of her for like a couple of years. Like she wasn't employed. Like you mentioned the job at the bank. She got a job at the bank, and then Donald had gone nuts about that and told her to stop working. She had tried like one or two other jobs.
Well, whatever Donald says.
Pretty much, and getting the family on board to just have her at home. But like the fact that she was getting these interviews, newspaper articles written about her, visitors, all of these things, like she was getting money for this, like gifts, people sending her gifts.
And the attention. Suddenly she's in the newspaper. Why would she quit now?
Yeah.
It just starts building and building and building. Like
so there's
Well,
some,
I don't know.
It's-
The thing for me is like, I'm just like, if you're there, like, I'm just saying, I feel like if I showed up there and I'm looking into this thing, it would be very hard for the 15-year-old to dupe me and me not be like,
It's different
I think
time,
it's the
though, right?
15-year-old.
here's the thing.
it's a very different time.
Yeah, but you
agree
were
with
allowed to
Braden.
strip her naked back then, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, how is she going to fool you?
I agree with Braden on the point that it might be difficult for a single 15-year-old to dupe you, but some of the events that are in here, there's no way she could have done them by herself. Like there's stuff in here, like if it was a hoax, it would have to be like the whole family, or at least one or two other people in the family doing these things, which would have been difficult because it's like we said, the mom was wheelchair bound. Grandma.
So she'd be easy to fuck with, I'd imagine, right? You can do stuff behind her back pretty easy. The one brother though that they don't make, the stepbrother, he's the one that he adamantly, he's like, I don't want my fucking name in any of these stories.
Right,
he's
Mark.
like,
Yeah.
all I'll say is the fact that everywhere Shirley goes, this shit happens, and it never happens without her around.
So, yeah.
She's the one that notices everything. She's the one that found the key. She's the one that finds the letters. So it's like, it's all centered around this fucking chick. I don't know. Literally nothing bad happens to her.
It is an interesting case. Like a lot of paranormal investigators, like big names in the field, like around that time, some of them had gone in there and been like, I'm not sure if it's a hoax. Something interesting is going on here. Whether it's chalk it up to schizophrenia, chalk it up to even if it is a hoax of some kind,
it'd be the whole
or hysteria.
fucking house, like the whole family.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is something interesting is going on here. We're just not sure what it is. And if it's something like she was a paranormal beacon, it's definitely something like, yeah, if you're getting James Dean and Louis the 17th in the same aura space, like that is interesting. That is
Apparently the house was above a sewer as well, like a big sewer system, and they used a lot of rat poison and stuff, so they could be getting fucking
Getting
there
seepage
was that.
into their water supply or something.
Yeah. The one thing that kind of jumped out to me was just the incident in her bed where her entire family was around. Cause that was the one big event where like, well, we can't explain that. But a lot of times like your body can contort in really weird ways. And it can look like, you arch your back and stuff like that. It's in the middle of the night and they could kind of be like, oh, it looks like she's floating.
Just
but
her
she's not
shoulder
really.
blades and her heels are on the bed and the rest is like,
Exactly. And you're already on high alert. You're already thinking that you're paranormally activated. There's something going on. And then you see that, like your mind's going to jump to the craziest thing, I would imagine.
I found one of the more interesting things about this case is like just Chibbit's like dedication to the whole case thing. Like he was on this for
Wait, where else was he going to live?
Because he wanted to believe.
Right. Well, he found it like, people were kind of saying that, yeah, this was his white whale. This was the thing that was going to put him on the board as like a paranormal researcher because he was a big fan of all the other guys. And he kind of knew them, corresponded with some of them. I think like Arthur Conan Doyle was like on his mailing list.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the
he was
thing. Like,
consulted for some of the books.
If that's the case, right? That's the case. It's like, how does this guy not just deduce right away, be like,
well, one of the things,
but maybe he was a fiction writer. He had fucking plans to get in writing fiction, right? Like he's going to use this as his muse.
His pursuit of the identity of this thing is fascinating. Like the way, like I said, the book I read by Shirley Hitchings, the actual the girl who experienced all this, and James Clark, called The Poltergeist Prince of London, the remarkable true story of the Battersea Poltergeist. It lays out the whole thing and his pursuit of like just going through tons of historical accounts and data and correspondence, trying to figure out if Louis the 17th, because back then they weren't sure if Louis the 17th, like the second son of Louis the 16th, had survived. Like there was this whole thing for a while where they thought he had escaped the purges after the revolution and all of that stuff, and the death of the royalty and all of that. They weren't sure if he had actually survived or not. There were accounts saying that most of the official accounts back then were that he had died, but there was no 100% proof. Though we would get a little bit closer to the truth later, due to like genetic testing and stuff that we found his skull, and I don't know, what did they use? They used his heart. that they've had. That's a whole different story. But like him going through there and like the entity would, when corresponding with Chibbits, would give out these little details about like these ships. Like we escaped on a boat called the Royal Ark, and he contacted like every single person in France that would have possible knowledge of this boat. He's like, contacting everybody, every historian, every library, every record keeping society that he could get his hands on, trying to find this ship that to be able to be like, yes, this is Louis XVII, and it would throw out details and some stuff that Chibbits would be like, there's a very small chance that she would know about this. Like, how did she know about this unless the spirit?
That's what that's what captivated him, right? That's why I think that there's some truth to this story, is because like this is a guy who would do extensive research, and then he would like look into these things and he'd be like, how the fuck would she know this? Like,
but he's also got a massive desire for this to be real.
True.
Yeah.
So, but he did take a lot of liberties and some of the interpretations of the things that he did. I would like looking back on his notes and stuff, and it would be like
his notes compared to the book you read, vastly different. Like, no, I could tell. Like, me and Braden definitely went through his notes, like the podcast and everything like that, as opposed to your notes, because like, there's a tapping, and I'm like, oh, motherfucker. Well, I read that there was a fucking banging so loud that the entire neighborhood could find, right? Like, so there is a big difference between what this guy wrote and
he definitely sensationalized it a little bit,
as you would, as he's part of the fucking Writers Guild of fucking spooky booky fucking geisty bullshit.
We talked about
it. That's what he wants to do. That's the title.
Goosey Lucy.
Anyways,
basically.
Wrap it up.
So, I don't know. Battersea Poltergeist. Interesting.
Yeah. There's whole podcast dedicated to this case. Like entire series.
And it's great.
Horror podcast.
Yeah. No, it's great. The audio drama is awesome. I highly recommend it.
It's phenomenal.
Great. Super enjoyed it.
It's interesting though, because like I said, listening to this one and the other cases of poltergeist we've talked about, it does make me think that if these things are real, they're real. I think my personal thoughts on them is that I think we all encounter them at some point in our lives. The difference is we just don't give them, the attention or what fuels them to grow, right? It's like they come, they fuck with you. You just kind of pass it off as, oh, I don't know why this happened, and you move on, right? And so do they, right?
So poltergeist may be real, may not be real, but you know what really is the realest of real? Our Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
Boom.
The realest of the real. They actually exist, or they're bots that pay us money. One of the two.
Either way, we support it.
Either way, we love them. This week's newest supporters. We have Dimitri, Carol M. Velasquez, Ryan Morse, Brian Ince? You be the judge. Tyler Gillum, Marcus Fafield, and a nice little bump from Grim Night Productions. I don't know what they're producing, but they're producing something. Check them out.
Hope it's cheesy horror movie.
We support it.
We support it. All right, that was fun. It was a long.
And then, as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the sky.